Hello, it's time for another recap of everything that I made in the last year. And just like last year, this is mostly going to be personal work. I did a couple of freelance jobs this year that were really fun and creative, and I can't show you any of that stuff because it's not publicly released yet. I also worked a full-time job for the entire year. For the most part, I was a team lead on Isadora Moon, which was #1 on Sky Kids as of a couple of months ago, and I'm going to choose to believe that it still is. Obviously, I don't own that show. I can't show you much from it. But if you're in Ireland or the UK and you have Sky or Now TV, you can watch it there. It's also coming to HBO Max, or just Max, I guess, pretty early in the new year if you're in the US, so you can watch it there. I think I'm going to put in for overtime for that little promo. Before I get into what I made, let's quickly look back on the goals that I set for myself last year. There was two main ones. The first one was to continue working on an animated short film that I want to make about 3 kids in a band called Kitten Spit. I said that I wanted to do more on the rigs and really get stuck into the storyboarding, and I didn't do any of that. I drew them once this year, so we can kind of consider that a pretty colossal failure. But there's a good reason for it, and it's because my second goal last year, which was absolutely pie in the sky, didn't really think I was going to be able to achieve it, but if I did, it would just be amazing. That was to build a workshop in my back garden. And I did that. The exterior is not completely finished, as you can see, but it's so close to being done. And a year ago, my garden was just a barren wasteland, and now it's a barren wasteland with a shed in it. Of course, I recorded the whole thing, and so I'm going to make some videos about it, so I won't go too much into it now. But basically, I have a door that will be ready to go in like a week or two. And I thought I was going to have a window installed about 6 weeks ago, but the company that I got in touch with to do that scammed a load of people and went out of business. They took a lot of people's money, including mine, and I'm still windowless, and so I'm not quite as far along as I expected to be at this point in time. But basically it's very close, and it will be done pretty soon in the new year, and I kind of just can't believe I did it. So let's get to what I made. I sell zines and prints and pins and stickers on my Etsy, and until this year, whenever I'd get an order, I would write a thank you message on a post-it note, and I just knew that it didn't look very good. And so the first thing that I did this year was design a postcard so that I would have somewhere nicer to write those thank you messages. This depicts the Cat Express, which is when my cat Ozzy jumps up onto my back and I have to ferry him around the house. I say have to. I choose to, because he likes it and I love him. Right after the postcard, I drew this guy in like a green screen motion capture suit. I just thought it was a funny idea. You can kind of imagine him 5 minutes previous. He's flailing around as one of the blue lads from Avatar, and then he takes his lunch break in complete silence. Later on in the year, I got these acrylic pins made, and I really like how they turned out. Come here, tell me. What's up? Someone was feeling a little bit left out, so Ozzy's going to be here for a little while. My first woodworking project of the year was this little holder for lip balms, because there was a while there where every single night my girlfriend would knock them to the floor right as we were going to sleep and startle me awake. Oh my god, hello. I think this year I stumbled onto the kind of woodworking projects that I really want to make, which is really specific solutions for like tiny problems, you know? And I hope I get to do more of those this year. I spent most of February just prepping for, no, please don't go over there, for Dublin Comic Con, which was the following month. And so I did some fan art. The first ones I did was Scott Pilgrim and Ramona Flowers, which was really fun to do. Scott Pilgrim and Brian Lee O'Malley's work has been like such a huge influence on my art style over the years. But I'd never really drawn those characters properly. And so doing it was fun because it felt like there's so much about his art style that is ingrained into my own that it felt like easy and kind of natural, you know? Next, I did this little animation of Wind Waker Link swinging his sword. And then I took some of those frames and cleaned them up and made a print that I think looks pretty interesting. I've never really seen anybody use animation frames to make a print like that. Maybe they have, I just haven't seen it, but yeah, I thought it looked pretty cool. Dublin Comic Con has 2 editions each year, so there's like a spring and a summer, and I did them both. So later on in the year, I did a Time Crisis 2 print, which was just, I mean, my absolute favorite game when I was a kid. Or, well, one of my favorites, Tony Hawk's, was pretty up there. But yeah, it's funny, like, I did DCC maybe 4 or 5 times with solely original stuff. And it would do, like, fine, but never great. And so this year, I decided to do some fan art to see if it would sell better. And of course it did. But I don't know. I don't really like doing that. You know, original work is what makes me most excited. So I don't think I'm going to do that convention anymore. I made this zine 2 days before Spring Comic Con. It's called Hot Water Bottles. It's about hot water bottles and back pain. I used to have pretty bad back pain before I went to physio. And for years, I just thought, like, I just have a bad back. There's nothing I can do about it. And I used to rely on hot water bottles a lot. I was wrong about that. And this is kind of just about that whole thing. Let me show you my favorite page from it. Some people worship at the Iron Temple, but there's me. Just like my video game horses zine that I made a few years ago, which is one A4 page folded down to be a little 8-page mini. This one is the same, but it was kind of an experiment to see, could I cut it to the shape of a hot water bottle without it falling apart? And sure enough, it stays together. There's just enough like meat left. And I like how it looks like a Christmas decoration when you're done with it. I made another zine in March called Here's Wally. Each page, he's just like perfectly visible. There he is. There's no looking for him. You know, as it says on the back, sometimes you just don't want a challenge. March was the month that my aunt died. And like, I don't want to go into it too much, but it was incredibly tough, needless to say. And I had that idea on my way over to visit her one night, and on reflection, I think it probably maybe is the kind of idea that you might come up with when you're feeling like pretty overwhelmed. After she died, I spent the next 2 weeks working on this thing, because I think I just wanted something like really like silly and inconsequential to kind of distract myself with, you know? I think the older I get, the more I recognize that, like, for me, a lot of the time, art can be a bit of an escape from stuff that's going on, you know. Later that month, I uploaded my first video of the year, where I documented putting together my home office, and it's kind of funny, the frame looks so much more full than it did a year ago. The room took about a year to put together. The video took a couple months to get the edit right. You know, I wanted it to be really good, and I think it's the best video I've ever made, and it was really well received. It's like 92,000 views or something right now, which is wild. I didn't quite expect that. And then the following month, I put a wooden top onto this metal cabinet behind me here. That was originally going to be part of the kind of putting the studio together video, but I just had so much footage, and there was so much involved already, so I just decided to make it its own thing. And I love it. Makes it, you know, a lot cozier in here. One thing that I've learned this year is to maybe break ideas down into smaller chunks. It doesn't have to be like sorting out my entire studio in one go. It can be chipping away at it over kind of a couple of smaller videos so that they're easier for me to put together. I think I had 28 hours of footage for that video. So yeah, if I've learned anything this year, it's just like more manageable ideas, smaller, that over time build up to something bigger, I think. I made another video in April where I went through the 2 sketchbooks that I submitted with my college portfolio to get into animation college. Honestly, I remembered those being like a lot better than they actually were. And I remember feeling a little bit embarrassed and sort of questioning whether I was gonna put the video up at all or not. But I suppose we all have to start somewhere, right? In May, I built some drawers to go under a couple of metal cabinets in this room, and that was to store stock for my Etsy. So as I said, zines, prints, pins, stickers. I had a lot of packing material as well. It was all just so messy, and it was in this huge pile of boxes that I would have to root through to find anything. I also put a little shelf in under here to help store some of that stuff as well. And it's just made me so much more organized. I cannot overstate how happy I am that I did that. In June, I put up 2 videos about those drawers. And again, I had planned it to be one video, just getting all my storage sorted out in one go. And then when I started building them, I realized just how much work it was going to be. And so that's another example of me learning that lesson. I learned it, you know, many times this year. I hadn't really drawn much since March, but towards the end of July, I found myself in the mood to do something. So I grabbed an old notebook off the shelf and I just flicked through it until I found something that I liked. And I drew this. It's not really based off of any one video game. I kind of took inspiration from a bunch of different ones. I guess I was thinking about Animal Crossing, hello. You know, some of the handheld Zelda games that I played growing up, like Link's Awakening and Minish Cap. And yeah, it was really well received. People really seemed to like it. I liked it a lot too. So much so that I got prints made and I sold them at DCC the next month. And I think it's my favorite drawing from the year. Where are you off to? In August, I made a commitment and I got engaged. And I also started prepping the garden to build a workshop. So I spent about 5 weeks digging it up and getting it all level. It took way longer than I was expecting. That month I also took on some commissions to help pay for the workshop, and so I drew this D&D character, which I really like. I want to do more D&D characters. They're so fun. Eventually, not just yet. I'm so tired. I also did some artwork for a comedy podcast called You Having Us On, and that was really fun. That was like really collaborative. There was lots of cool ideas going back and forth, you know. And I did a couple of others as well that I can't show you yet, maybe someday. Last year, I talked about this zine that a bunch of the crew in work contributed to. It was on the theme of vampires and fairies, and so I did a banshee, which is a kind of a fairy in Irish mythology. And I really, really don't like how it turned out. And so this year we made another one, volume 2, and it was on the theme of space. And I was like, okay, I gotta do something good. I feel like I have to redeem myself. And what I ended up doing, I really like. Let me find it. Yeah, there he is. I think it just turned out so much better than the year before. It's really fun. I've drawn that alien guy a few times over the years. It's really fun because he has 4 arms and 4 legs. So you kind of get to like give them two poses at once, you know, so you can kind of have like conflicting emotions almost. It's really fun. You should try that. I started building the workshop in September and somehow thought that I could get it done during a 3-week break in work, which I didn't do. And so I continued to build it in October and November and now December. And those first kind of 6 weeks in particular were a real race against the clock, because every day I just had a little bit less daylight. But then once the clocks went back at the end of October, come 5 o'clock, I just couldn't see anything. And so I was only able to really make some decent progress at weekends. And so I started using my evenings to do other things again. So in October, my granddad died. And then I drew the Kit and Spit gang for the first time this year. And I had drawn them around a claw machine a year or two previous, and it occurred to me that it was kind of an interesting exercise to be able to explore their characters through illustration. The idea that I had was I could kind of put them in all these different situations and just see how each of them respond, and that would tell me a little bit about who they are as people, kind of. And I suppose that time was like pretty overwhelming as well. I was racing to try and get the workshop done with the daylight that I had left, and trying to do my day job properly, and also like processing what had just happened. I want to just get through it. So yeah, I guess like that drawing was a bit of an escape for me as well, you know, like I could kind of just disappear into this world that I'm trying to create for these characters. I love those characters, like they're my friends, you know. I think that is what made me draw them at that time. I really do. I started tidying my current little workshop in July, and it just kind of spiraled outwards, and I kept making more and more improvements, and I just had so much footage, and it was a couple of months before I was actually done doing stuff to it. And so it was November before I edited that footage, and then I just uploaded it a couple of weeks ago in December. I mostly finished it because I aim to finish everything that I start, and I just thought like, okay, this is just like, I have a lot on my plate, I'll just kind of do this, and then that can be, you know, I can forget about it. And I didn't really expect anything to come from it. I thought maybe like, I don't know, 300 views would have been great. It's close to like 11,000, which is bonkers. I think people really like organizing stuff. I started making shorts this year, and I would put them on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and they really don't take very long to do at all. And because you have such a limited time frame, like you just don't have the time to go really in depth on stuff. With longer videos, I can get lost in the weeds of trying to explain a complicated problem, and there just isn't the time to do that. So they're a lot quicker to put together. The first one that I made this year was about the lip balm holder, and then I made a few about some stuff that I have on my Etsy. So, you know, zines, the video game print, the green screen pin. In November, I made this board that we can make a jigsaw on and then store it out of the way when we want the table back. And I made one about some little improvements that we made to our living room. I also made one about storing some enamel pins onto those IKEA letter holders. And that one kind of blew up on YouTube and TikTok. I did not expect that. I made one about the notebooks that I carry everywhere as I kind of got a new one ready to use. And that kind of blew up as well. And I also didn't expect that. Lastly, I made one for the most recent video that I uploaded just before this. Since they are pretty quick and easy to put together, for every long form video I make, I should make a short promoting it. What I used to do was just, if there was a short clip in the video that I liked, I would kind of take that out and upload it as a short. But it really doesn't take much more effort to make something that is a lot better for the purposes of promotion, you know? So I think I'm going to do that going forward. And also I just want to make more shorts in general. I really kind of grew to like the process. It's fun. My other general goals are, as always, to make more videos and be more consistent with them. And I know I said that last year and then I wasn't very consistent at all. But the workshop took so much of my time and kind of stopped me from being able to make videos as often as I would like. But it's also the thing that is going to, in future, when it's up and running, allow me to be more consistent than ever. So I'm really excited for that. I want to work on the Kit and Spit gang more, and I'll need to kit out the inside of the workshop so that it's ready to move into, you know? Because of the window problems that I mentioned earlier, it will likely be February before I can finish the exterior of the workshop completely. But while I wait, I can be chipping away at some stuff on the inside. It's going to need insulating, sheathing, it needs a floor, maybe some paint, electricity. There's plenty to be done, but because I'll be inside, the weather won't be as much of a factor. And so I would hope to be in by at least this point next year. Obviously, hopefully sooner than that. The sooner the better, but I just can't really say when that's going to be right now. I did a lot of stuff this year that helped me to raise the last bit of money that I needed for the workshop. So freelance work and, you know, overtime and work when I came up, and I did commissions and art markets and conventions and sold stuff online. And I even went back to my old college and did a talk on production design, which they paid me for. And all that stuff meant that I had a little bit more money but also felt way less creatively fulfilled because I just didn't have the time to focus on the stuff that I really wanted to do. I think next year I'm just going to focus on my day job, and hopefully we'll have more time to do the things that I really want to do. I don't know about you, Ozzy, but all in all, I'm not going to miss this year. I made some cool stuff. I got engaged to someone I love, but personally, I really wouldn't chew that if I were you. It's kind of important. In a lot of other ways, it was real tough, kind of shit. So thanks for watching. Sorry I ended on that note. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the new year. Cheers.